What's going on, guys? What's going on, girls? Sal here, back again. Going to be taking a deeper look, not a first look, deeper look at this Week 16 NFL slate over on Draftkings. It's Thursday night. I just got back from college, back home. Don't have my proper lighting, so the lighting might be a little off in this, although I'm probably in the little corner of the screen right now, so it doesn't matter too much. But just want to let you guys know that's why the background is a little different. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name's Sal Vetri. I do DFS content such as this, focusing primarily on the NFL. Going to be doing NFL offseason stuff in terms of strategy, bankroll management, psychology, part of the game, which is a huge part of the game, being contrarian, things like that, as well as getting more into DFS, NBA, as well as MLB. I do have a blog. You can check out all this stuff. I launched an Instagram for DFS, Sal Vetri branded, in the description below. Check it all out. I urge you to go check out the Instagram for returning subscribers. All you guys that are watching is check out the Instagram if you don't want to read the blog or anything like that. I put out snippets of my videos, the important stuff or things that I find interesting, and I just try and keep it a place to be informed through that micro content if you don't want to watch the full video or you can't get around to it. But I appreciate it, guys. Let's get down into this video. Hit that thumbs up. Smash the notification bell if you can, and also hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of Week 17. It's a little over a week away from now, and we're at about 800. So if we can get a good push at the end of that, that's my goal of getting to 1,000 four figures on YouTube. It would be a huge goal in a half a season, basically. So let's get into this slate. We're going to break it down like I usually do. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Maybe glance over defense. Don't really care too much about breaking down the defenses that much. But we'll break down the other positions, and I'll be putting them into my tournament allocation pool, so like my player pool of who I'll use in my tournaments early on, right? It's Thursday, so Saturday I usually filter that down a good amount, but I'll be using Draft Dashboard to do that. I have all the guys in there. You can see so far 34 players. We'll go through. I'll talk about them at this point. And again, those guys are subject to change due to injuries or basically just due to me digging deeper into the research. It is only Thursday, and I did travel all day today, so I haven't had too much, especially this week, traveling Monday and Tuesday in New York. Haven't had too much time to break down the slate, but I have tried to get into it on Wednesday a good amount just to be able to get this video out and get my initial thoughts on that pool. But you can go to Draft Dashboard. You can get access to my player pool at all times during the week, especially when I filter it down for 30 days for $1. You can check it out, linked in the description, literally right below. So let's go. Let's start with quarterback position. At quarterback position, I'm going to glance over this Big Ben and Drew Brees. I'm going to glance over both of them. The way that the Saints defense has been playing, they're balling out now. And when they're balling out, like last year, they like to rely a little bit more on the run. They did start to actually pass the ball. A lot of people didn't realize this. A lot more, even though Mark Ingram came back, they were actually passing from weeks like 5 to 10 or 11, like in the top 3 in the league, which a lot of people didn't see that coming. Now they're back to running the ball a little bit more. Brees just isn't throwing the ball as much. He's had his worst 3-game stretch, and I don't know how long. He's been pitiful, but their defense hasn't allowed more than 17 points in 6 straight games, so they can rely on that run. They don't need Brees to be throwing for 300 yards. Yes, this is the highest total game on the slate by more than 6 points. But between Roethlisberger and Brees, based on where their prices are, I want to pay down at QB, and I'll get there. But I want to pay down at QB. They're just not guys that I really want to touch right now. Sandwiched in between them, though, Deshaun Watson is a guy that I do want to touch. Going up against Philadelphia, that secondary is obviously, we've seen it, pretty putrid. The only thing that does worry me is every single week he's running for his life back there. He gets pressured the most in the league, like 54%. And Philadelphia is one of 6 teams who get pressure on more than 50% of the dropbacks. I think it's like 51.5%. So Watson definitely is a guy who has good potential based on the matchup and because of his legs and because he has such a high ceiling and relatively decent floor. But against a pass rush like that, it could be a little bit scary. But he's the first guy I've watched here, as you can see. The next guy is going to be Aaron Rodgers, and it came out today that he's going to be playing. He came out in an interview and just said, I'm playing. So the thing that I like about that, yes, they have nothing to play for, but if he is playing, I mean, I don't see them just pulling him at halftime. He's going up against the Jets, who have been a good matchup for quarterbacks all year long, and he's still Aaron Rodgers, right? A lot of people are going to be off of him because of the year that he's had, and really it hasn't been great at all, especially fantasy-wise, because they're eliminated, because there was some worry about him, because he's also 6,300, and he's in a price range where you can go right up to Brees or maybe even Roethlisberger and feel a little bit comfortable about that. He's a guy that I have in there right now. Could be one of those guys that I do take out, though. Next guy up is going to be at 6,100. Again, I'm more concerned with going below 6K this week and possibly even below 5K. There's a lot of decent options. But Baker Mayfield, the last time he went up against Cincinnati, and we can cut over to it right here on DraftKings to get a quick look at his player log. The last time he went up against Cincinnati, he had his, short career year. He's had a short career, but his career game, he careered it, right? He had 258 yards, he had 4 touchdowns, most passing touchdowns in a game for him, and he did that all basically in one half because then they just ran Nick Chubb into the ground when Nick Chubb had also a huge game. So I do like Baker Mayfield once again. Now that he's going to be coming home in this same exact matchup. It bodes well for him at 6,100. He's priced probably appropriately for that. Maybe a little bit too much for my liking, but he is at a good price. You got a lot of QBs at 6K and above, and a lot of them are basically have question marks around them, in my opinion. The next one up, Kirk Cousins at 6K. I like what they did with the new offense. They put up over 40 points. We saw Green Bay come out and put up their most points on the year when they got their new offensive coordinator. That's exactly what Minnesota did. They pulled out all the stunts, basically, got guys involved. Dalvin Cook had a great game, of course. Latavius Murray was still involved, so it does worry me when we get to Dalvin Cook. Not just late, but he also had a touchdown in the red zone. But Kirk Cousins, now he's going up against Detroit, and he's been able to pick apart literally all of Detroit's secondary, even Slay. Like, Slay's been decent, but not nearly as good as he has been all year. We've talked about that previously on one of these episodes. But I do like Cousins this year, or this game at least, because it does set up well for them. They're still playing for a playoff spot. Detroit has nothing to play for. Detroit, though, is a sneaky team that can get an upset here. But with Thielen, with Cook now looking back to healthy like he was in his rookie year for some of those games, and Diggs, you just have so many weapons. I like Cousins this week. Because I think a lot of the ownership is going to be garnered around probably Matt Ryan because he had a good game last week. These two guys up here because they're in the highest total game of the week. A guy who's going to go under the radar totally is Mitch Trubisky. Play Mitch Trubisky if you want a guy who's going to go probably totally under the radar due to being up in price, being the same exact price as Aaron Rodgers. If you want to pick between one of them, most people will probably go with Rodgers in my opinion. Because Trubisky's just had a down year for the last 3 weeks. So not a down year, last down month basically. And the injury is definitely taken into that. So it really is a lot of different ways. You can make a case for all these guys. You can make a case for Andrew Luck on a bounce back week, but I'm going to avoid it, just in my opinion. Coming down more, a lot of people are going to want to play Dak. He's right now on the edge of getting into my player pool. I don't have him in there yet. He struggles against zone defenses. Man-to-man, he does decent, and a big part of that is because Amari Cooper has been beating his men lately, and Cole Beasley is actually really good at getting off coverage on man-to-man in the slot. But Tampa plays a decent amount of zone, more than the NFL average, barely. I think it's like 5 to 10% more than the NFL average. We saw that Dak last week against the Colts basically looked terrible against the zone defense. But this is a great matchup if you think about it just in terms of stacking the Cowboys offense with Zeke, Dak, and Amari, which has gone bonkers 2 times in the past month of the season, 2 weeks ago and as well as Thanksgiving. It's a good spot for that. He's definitely on the edge right now below 5K. Next thing that we get here, though, we get this huge drop-off. Not yet. So we have one more guy, Jameis. So Jameis is another guy. If we go to Jameis's player log here, Jameis is a guy that I want to have in some lineups, and basically it's because everybody's going to be off of him. Look, he had his worst game of the year so far, but he did it against Baltimore, at Baltimore. A lot of people weren't expecting, really nobody was expecting the Bucs to play decent there in a tough matchup against the number 1 defense against the run, a top 3-2 defense overall in DVOA. But now he gets a better matchup at Dallas. Yes, Dallas secondary has been pretty decent. Byron Jones out there, but they are not anywhere near the caliber of, maybe not anywhere near, but they're not the same as a Baltimore defense, especially in Baltimore. You're going to go to Dallas. Jameis is going to have better weather conditions. Again, this Bucs quarterback position is a place I've been targeting all year, whether it's Fitzpatrick or Jameis. They're having the second best year overall behind Patty Mahomes. That's still holding even after this bad week. I want to get back on the bounce back wagon. Ownership's going to be low on him, and he went down a lot. $5,500 right now, based on where he's been at for the past month and a half of the year. That's a discount on Jameis. I like him a lot. Now we get below the 5K guys. So just like that, it drops. Not interested in Darnold. I know some people do want to play him as a sneaky tournament play. I get it. Tournaments, you can really go for anybody you can make the case for. Just not interested in him against Green Bay. Darnold's been looking terrible all year. Not interested in Stafford, which is sad that he's dropped below 5K. He used to be a great quarterback. This could be a sneaky Stafford week, though, but it hasn't happened, and he just has no time and really no weapons outside of Galladay to throw for 300 yards. Foles, tough matchup again. The guys that I have highlighted down here, none of them, but I think you can make a case for a Jeff Driscoll and a Cody Kessler. Driscoll came in relief against, I think, Cleveland last time, or no, it wasn't Cleveland. But he did come in relief at halftime, and he did well. He's held his own. He's not a great quarterback, but he does have a good matchup against Cleveland. And Kessler has a decent matchup, but in terms of being able to get a little bit freer on the ground. But that all depends on if Leonard Fournette's going to be getting some run to take some stuff off for Kessler since he does have some wheels to pick up some yards on the ground. Maybe it helps even if Fournette's out. The guy I'm looking at is Taylor Hinkie. So he's 4K. He's priced so low. Is that the minimum? Let's see. At quarterback, is 4K the minimum? Yeah. So he's at the minimum price, which we haven't seen all year. We've seen Mark Sanchez at like 4,300 or 4,400, whatever he came off of. So you have Taylor Hinkie, right? Like, I mean, the guy threw one ball. He got 33 yards a couple weeks back. So this guy is going to come into the game. 2 weeks ago he did that. He's going to come into this game. He's going to start against Atlanta at home against a bad Atlanta defense. Although they have been improved since getting Deion Jones back, getting a little bit healthier in defense, they're still not great. McCaffrey should have a decent game no matter the quarterback, so I'm not really worried about McCaffrey. But at $4,000, so you're basically hoping if he gets 15 points, he smashes for you. And again, he's a quarterback, so 2 passing touchdowns can get you there, especially if he does anything on the ground, which in college, I was listening to the Pat Mayo experience, and the guy on there, the guest, said that in college, Hinkie had, I think, 3 seasons with 350 plus rushing attempts on less than 100, or 350 plus yards on less than 100 attempts and at least 4 touchdowns. That's pretty good for a quarterback, right? Especially on less than 100 attempts. So definitely scrambling, but also probably some design runs in there. This offense does revolve around Cam Newton when he's in there, design run type guy. So maybe you see some of those same type of plays. At 4K, I mean, I'm not opposed to doing that. You do that. And then you also just throw a cheap defense in here. Let's just random 2,300 defense. You have 6.2 left at most positions. And, I mean, based on what you're going to do at quarterback, if you were to be a guy who pays up for Drew Brees, you have 5.8. That's a big difference, 400 per player, especially if you find more value where you can at tight end, where you can at running back on this slate. That's the last quarterback that I will talk about, and we will move on to running back. So I think it's a great play at 4K. It just opens up so much more. Not a great play in a vacuum in terms of who he is, but based on matchup, based on the slate itself, and being able to get up at positions that we want to get up more at, such as running back, such as wide receiver, I think it is a great play. Running back, as of right now, I have to dive deeper into it because I don't have as many guys as I usually do highlighted. So Zeke and Christian McCaffrey, they've made their way into my first look lineup. I like Zeke this week, even against Tampa Bay, who has been, again, getting a little bit better since changing defensive coordinators, and they are a little bit better at home, so now you get to target them on the road. And Zeke's role in this offense, again, I said it in the first look, is just ridiculous. He's a number 1 receiver. He's seen 20% of the target share in each of the he's like one of 6 or 7 guys to see 20% of his team's target share over the past month of the season, Amari Cooper being another one of those, and he's a running back, right? 7 targets, 21 targets the last 2 weeks. He's had 27 targets the last 3 weeks, averaging 9 targets a week over that span. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and he's catching. He's catching all these short balls. Some of them are screens, some of them are just dump-offs where he's coming out of the backfield and just basically turning around and getting a free 10 yards. So not scoring at all in the past 2 weeks. I think that's going to regress. This guy gets all the work. He gets 25 plus touches, closer to 30 plus touches recently. All the goal line work. He's a 3-down back. This is going to start to come more touches. He hasn't scored on the ground in 3 weeks. Hasn't scored overall in 2 weeks. I think that's going to start to change, especially against Tampa. This could be a great spot for Zeke and the rest of the Cowboys offense, like we mentioned, depending on how well Dak's going to play. McCaffrey, again, Cam being out, I'm kind of neutral to it. I mean, you're going up against Atlanta. They can't stop the pass-catching running back. Deion Jones is helping a little bit, but again, not that much. So I do like McCaffrey here. I'm not too worried with Cam being out. Cam's setting up screens to McCaffrey, throwing dump-offs to him. I don't see why a backup quarterback wouldn't be doing that more. Now, maybe you say they double-team McCaffrey or put more eyes on him since he'll be one of the only playmakers, but I don't know. Cam couldn't get the ball downfield the last month of the year because of his shoulder injury. Maybe this quarterback, who can at least throw the ball a little bit further since he's not injured, can get the ball to DJ Moore. Can get the ball to Funchess and those guys, Curtis Samuel. So maybe it does open up a little bit more for McCaffrey if there's actually a threat. I don't know. I see it as more of a neutral thing. I'm not too worried about McCaffrey being held down. I'm skipping over Saquon. We've seen last week the Colts. I think he's a great GPP play, which is what we're doing here. So I'll probably end up putting him in this. We saw the Colts. They're giving up the most receptions to running backs. They gave up 7 to Zeke last week, but they are shutting down teams overall. So I'm not really focusing on Saquon so much this week because I'd rather pay up for these 2 guys who I think are in more smash spots. And again, they're going to be high owned, but I'm fine with that. Next guy, and let me actually put this on the main slate. I don't think I had it on the main slate. There we go. So next guy up for me is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb again against Cincinnati last time out there. The guy absolutely ate, right? He had a pretty ridiculous touchdown catch, I believe. He also got in So against Cincinnati, he had a pretty ridiculous touchdown catch. He had a rushing touchdown. They kind of limited him in the second half, and he still went for 28 points. He could have done anything he wanted that week. Got a ton of work, over 30 overall touches. I see that happening again. Now he's at home. Better situation for him. Andy Dalton's not starting this game, which he did start that game, so it did make it, based on spread, a little bit closer. Cleveland should be the favorite, as they are in this one at home. I like Nick Chubb a lot this week. He's a way that if you want to squeeze 3 guys in, then you can find this value with the Taylor Hinkies of the world, or whatever his name is. Heineke, whatever it is. Maybe you squeeze 3 guys in high price, mid value. The next guy, I think the mid value range is very sneaky, a way to play it. A lot of people are going to come up here, and rightfully so. If you were to fade one of these, I'd probably fade McCaffrey, stick with Zeke. They both have great roles, but I just like Zeke's overall role a little bit better, his offense better, and his team's actually playing for something. So if you want to maybe say they're done, they shut Cam down in Carolina, and now maybe they shut McCaffrey down, or not shut him down, but not put him on the field for 95% of the snaps. Maybe it's only 70%. I think Zeke is going to be the guy to stay in longer based on the fact that the Cowboys have a ton to play for. Next guy up, Joe Mixon. I love Joe Mixon. I'm a Joe Mixon truther, basically. I love this kid. He does incredible things with the ball. His yards per touch are incredible. We saw he played great last week, right? Over 20, he had 29 touches, almost 30 touches again for back-to-back weeks. Very close, at least getting 29 touches. Got in the end zone twice. He's scoring a ton. He does get work in the passing game, but we haven't seen it really over the past 3 weeks. But I think that should change against Cleveland. He has a good matchup again. The offense is going to get run through him. No A.J. Green. No Tyler Boyd, it seems like. And it's basically no Jeff Driscoll. It's going to go through Joe Mixon. They're going to pound him 25-plus times if they have to. Now, you could say the season's ending. Are they going to take Joe Mixon out? I don't see that happening. I think they want to get the kid as much run as they can. Next up for me. So James Conner's another guy that I'm looking at, and obviously this depends on if he goes. If he goes, I think he goes back to his normal role of 22 to 28 touches per game, closer averaging 25 in there. I think Samuels is going to go back to maybe he'll get a couple of third downs here and there, but this is James Conner's backfield. He deserved it, what he did over the first 3 months of the season or so. So, yeah, I think that James Conner's a great play at 7K. He's a guy that you were willing to pay up in the 8K range for, right? Well, that was on a solo game slate, I believe. But he was a guy that you were willing to pay much more money, 8K, mid-7s, high 7s, for earlier in the season. Yes, he has a tougher matchup against New Orleans, but if he has that passing game role like we're used to him having when he was healthy, I don't see why you can't play him at 7K in a spot where if he's questionable all week and then gets the active sign, that probably means that he's actually healthy. The team's not going to limit him at all. Why risk putting him out there with the playoffs upcoming? So nobody's going to want to own him, right? So in tournaments, if that's what we're talking about, he should be a great play. Dalvin Cook, another guy that I'll just briefly touch on. Dalvin Cook, and I like him. I do like him. I think he's going to be a little bit too chalky for me. I do have him in my pool as of right now because he has a good matchup. Again, Minnesota playing for a lot. New offensive coordinator in there. But Latavius Murray is still out there, right? Like on a 25% snap rate. He had a touchdown last week. So, again, Dalvin Cook's a great play. But if he's going to be super high owned, like 20 to 25% owned based on what he did last week, I'm fine fading him, especially with James Conner in that exact same range, right? As well as Mixon, as well as Chubb, a little bit more expensive. Next guy up, so I'm kind of fading this range right here in the high 6K to mid 5K range. I'm fading it completely. David Johnson's always interesting because of his role. He's still getting a ton of touches out there. If we come over to David Johnson, but again, not a guy I'm playing. Arizona, you can in Arizona, so it's good for them. You can get some run against LA, the Rams, but more so in the passing game. But now that Talib's back, that's even shored up a little bit. This should be a spot where they're getting completely blown out, probably. But David Johnson's always a sneaky play because he does have that 30-plus point upside. But not going to have him in there. Marlon Mack's the guy I'm on the edge with. I'll add him as of right now. I didn't have him in there, but I will put him in there. He is the grounder. He is getting all the work inside the 20-yard line, inside the 10, the red zone, getting all the goal line work. Scored a couple times last week. But I think they're different situations. When the Colts get up big quick, they do like to run the ball. But in a lot of games, they stay competitive. Their defense isn't absolutely incredible, although they shut down the Cowboys last week. But in games that they stay competitive, which is most of them, Luck is usually throwing the ball 35 to 40 times, and they got Nyheim Hines in on a little bit more snaps, the better pass-catching guy there. But Mack is a good play at his price based on the fact that he's playing the Giants, who have been giving it up to running backs for the second half of this year. Jamal Williams, I'm not touching him. I'm a Packers fan. I know Jamal Williams, okay, he's had a terrible year. Last year when Rodgers was out, he actually played pretty well. But overall, Jamal Williams is pretty much a bum. He's like bottom 5 in PFF ratings overall. He should get the majority of the touches since they have no one else behind him. But I think they attack this. If Rodgers is in, they're going to attack this more through the secondary. Williams, though, does block well, so he'll be in probably on all 3 downs. And he can catch the ball pretty decent as well. Maybe gets 4 to 5 receptions in this game. Might be a guy I put in later on. You could check that out later in the week. If you just click the link below for 30 days for $1, you can get access to my player pool. James White I like a lot more now that Gordon's out. And for people that are going to say Gordon, he can't stay off the weed. One, we don't know if it's weed yet. It could be something else. He's been had other problems in the past. And 2, this is a drug-related issue. Even if it was weed or not, you can get addicted, obviously, to other drugs, such as cocaine, whatever he's done in the past. And either way, if it's messing with his mental health, it shouldn't be something that's a joking matter. But again, this does open up opportunity for a guy like James White. Down here, Tevin Coleman I do have in here based on the fact that Judge Ito Smith is injured. He's out. He's done. He's on IR. So Coleman should get more work since it's like Jeremy Langford and then nobody else behind him. He didn't get much more work. He had 11 carries. He just was super efficient. Most efficient game in his career last week. He went off, but only on 11 carries. Should see some more work. Has definitely a tougher matchup against Carolina, though. Love Elijah McGuire this week at 4,700. He's the guy. He's going to get 20-plus touches. He definitely works in the passing game well. He's going to get all the red zone work. Trenton Cannon will get some work, but not nearly enough. McGuire is going to be on the field 70% of the time, I'd imagine, getting 20-plus touches against Green Bay, who, again, I mentioned this in the first look. Kenny Clark, one of the best run stoppers in the league, defensive lineman for the Packers, was placed on IR. They already don't have Mike Daniels. Their linebackers are pretty bad to begin with. Blake Martin is decent, not great. But overall, that defense is really hurting. Their run defense is really hurting. Now you get a guy like McGuire coming in. They're in a great matchup, and he can catch the ball. I like him a lot at 4,700. He's my favorite cheap play guy. He's really my favorite guy from the 55 below range, right? I'd pay probably 55 for McGuire if he was that much. Just because I like his spot and his role a lot. That's it, though. Really cheap guys. I mean, there's a couple if you really wanted to play. I know McCoy seems like he's going to be back, so Ivory's pretty much done then. If you really wanted to look more into Jeff Wilson and this Matt Breida split, you could. I'm not going to play around with it. I'm done trying to find these value running backs unless they're in like a Spencer Ware situation where you have to play him. But yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I got 1, 2. How many guys did I queue? I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 running backs I queued. That's actually pretty decent. I might drop that down to about 7, maybe keep 9, but low ownership on some of them. Again, really want to pay up this week, but the mid-range is super interesting with these 4 guys right here, back to back to back in price. Mainly these 3 guys for me. Trying to figure out how I can get these 3 guys and also these 2 guys in a lot of my lineups for sure. Next up, wide receivers. And a lot of wide receivers. So there's a lot of stud running backs on this slate, and there's also a ton of stud wide receivers. And as we'll see right here, we filter this by the salary on DraftKings. So Julio's a guy I have in there. He's just been absolutely tearing it up, right? The story was Julio can't get in the end zone. He's now the highest priced guy in DraftKings because he's leading the league in yards. And the guy can also get in the end zone now, right? He's scored, 6 touchdowns, whatever it is, on the year. 6 touchdowns in literally 6 games. He's just been absolutely killing it. And now he gets Carolina, who their secondary will not be able to stop Julio. Julio's going to get to see them twice. Or actually, he already saw them once this year. 5 catches, 9 yards, 64. One of his worst games on the year. I don't think Bradbury beats him twice in 1 year, though. I like Julio, although I'm not sure I'll be able to get there, but I will try and keep him in the queue. Just to let you guys know that there's a possibility I'm going to be using him. DeAndre Hopkins, probably going to be the most owned wide receiver on the slate, I would imagine. Has the best matchup, playing guys off the streets. Most talented receiver in the league, in my opinion. Best receiver in the league, in my opinion. He is 8,600, so if you did pair him with Watson, it might be contrarian since not a lot of people are going to have Watson. But Hopkins is super expensive, right? So definitely a guy I want to have in there. Adams also a guy I want to have in there. Again, if I'm playing Rodgers, I'm going to stack him with Adams. The only player in fantasy to have 15 points in every single game that's a non-QB. So I got to love Adams there. Even at 8,500, he's just so good in the red zone. So good overall. And he's 200 yards away from breaking the Packers' overall single-season record held by Jordy Nelson. I think he's only a handful of catches away from breaking Sterling Sharp's record for the Packers, receptions. And if Rodgers is in there, he's probably going to try and get him the ball. He loves Adams, so I like Adams a lot as well this week. Michael Thomas, another guy who's going to see. Pittsburgh likes to cover the linebacker or cover the slot receiver with linebackers. I don't know why Mike Tomlin keeps doing that. Keenan Allen literally tore them apart. Had a career day against them on that prime time game. Michael Thomas can do the exact same thing here. I think he's going to be lower owned due to his price, due to the guys around him, these Steelers guys around him. Again, I don't have the Steelers guys queued right now. AB on the road's a little bit scary. Juju is always in a good situation. I just like other guys more around them, right? I like Adam Thielen again to bounce back. Like I said, I do like Kirk Cousins this week. Bounce back finally. He's going to be in the slot. He'll avoid Slay, which should see more Slay for a guy like Steph Diggs. But I do like both of them. Just do like Thielen a little bit more. Next up, Amari Cooper. I mean, I mentioned I like all of the Cowboys this week, and I like Amari Cooper a little bit more because he had a down week last week. 8 points. Whenever he doesn't go off, everybody goes off of him. Whenever he goes off, people jump back on him. And you can see he's literally a roller coaster his whole career. Nothing, something, nothing, something, nothing. I don't think he played, yeah. Got something, something, nothing, something. Really nothing, something, nothing. I mean, obviously it's not always going to be like that. But I do like Cooper at his price range, especially based on the fact that he's going to get a lot of targets out there. And he does have a pretty good matchup. Next up, we're going to go down Julian Edelman. So I didn't have Edelman in there, and then I went back in there today, and once Josh Gordon got ruled out, I like Edelman a lot more, right? He's got, like, literally in 10 games, I think he has 11 targets from the 10-yard line or closer. He's getting a ton of red zone targets out there. Brady loves him. His splits are better with Gronk off the field, but Gronk might as well be off the field when he's just blocking a ton, which opens up more space over the middle of the field for a guy like Edelman. I love Edelman a ton this week, a lot more than I did before Gordon news came out. Should definitely bring a lot more of those targets to Edelman. A guy like Chris Hogan played on 93% of the snaps before Gordon got there, but he only averaged like 4 targets a game. Edelman, and that was without Edelman, right? So now with Edelman in there, I think it's going to be the Edelman show. Next up, this like 6-7K range, so 7K and below range at wide receiver, I'm not really hot on. Although Mike Evans, I will mention, he's going to probably see Byron Jones, so I don't like it. He's having a career year, right? He's on pace to have his highest in career yards, I believe, or his highest in career yards, highest yards per reception, all these types of things. He's quietly doing that, right? A good amount of 100-yard games. He's had like 6 or 7, been upwards in the 80s a couple times, pretty big 100-yard games. I'm not on him this week, but I just want to give him props. Landry has a great matchup. Not a guy that I'm on, not a guy that I've queued up just because, I mean, if you take away his 51-yard rushing touchdown, even in this game, he had a decent game at 14 points, right? Nothing spectacular. I don't want to pay $6,200 for that, even in a good matchup. I'd rather pay lower down for a guy like Callaway, who we'll get to. Keep an eye on Boyd's injury. It was an MCL I saw. Not sure. I don't think he's going to play. Galladay, tough matchup against Rhodes, but Rhodes isn't the guy that we've seen in the past, although I don't want to play Galladay after he just came off a monster week, 140-plus yards, because everybody's going to be on him, and he's not in an ideal spot, right? I am going to add Allen Robinson. Didn't have him in there originally, but I will add him now that I see he's 5,400 against San Francisco. It's a good spot for him for sure. He might see some Richard Sherman, but they do move Robinson around in the slot a lot, actually. Sherman stays on the left side of the field. I think they'll move Robinson around to get him away from that. Ridley, I was on him a lot last week, and he burned me. He had a decent first half, like 5 receptions for 40 yards, then he got nothing. He might have got nicked up. I'm going right back to Ridley in this situation. Against either Munnerlyn, if he's in the slot, or even the third cornerback out there. I think he's in a really good situation. He's an athletic freak. He's going to blow up one of these last 2 weeks of the year. And I'm basically, at this point, I'm just holding my breath with him because I played him a lot last week, and I want to get my money on him before he becomes chalky the week after in the playoffs. Might not be a great reason, but I do like Calvin Ridley a lot, and I think his ownership has just suppressed the last month and a half of the season, and I want to be there when it comes back. Cobb, I would love Cobb again, but he's in the concussion protocol. Doesn't seem like he's going to play. Foster, we were all over last week, guys. That paid off for us. Only guy with, I think, 100 yards and a touchdown on the main slate last week. So definitely paid off against us. He's a guy against New England who can get some run because he's fast, and Josh Allen is just scrambling around back there, right? Josh Allen scrambling around leads to Foster getting open deep, and Allen can throw 60-yard bombs because his arm's amazing. But I'd rather get the other guy out there, McKenzie, and we'll get to him. Demaryius Thomas, again, I love Philadelphia's matchup, and you have to imagine Philadelphia knows they can't guard Hopkins, so they're going to put safety help. You'd have to imagine at least double team him. That's going to open up a lot for Demaryius Thomas, who, yes, he doesn't have much left in the tank, but there's some left in the tank there. I like him a ton at 4,700 this week. Sort of reminds me of that week that Tyreek, a lot of people played him. If you pivoted to Sammy Watkins, you got like 30-something points. Again, I don't know if Demaryius Thomas still has a 150-yard game in him, but he does have 80 yards and 2 touchdowns in him on like 6-7 catches. He could get that this week. Humphrey's another guy. I like both these guys out here in Tampa Bay. We'll get to Godwin, but Humphreys I do like in the slot. That's where you should attack. Dallas is in the slot, outside of Byron Jones, outside of those cornerbacks on the outside who have been playing well. Humphreys is a guy who, even though they've been struggling and Jameis has been struggling, he's still getting receptions and targets, averaging, I think, 6 targets over the past 2 weeks and 4 receptions. Not great, but based on what they've been doing, it's pretty decent. All right, so moving on now, we have Robbie Anderson. I overlooked Robbie Anderson in the first look. That's my bad. We did have like money in this range. I ended up going down to a guy like Dante Pettis in a pretty not great matchup. Not awful, but not great matchup. But Robbie Anderson's the guy that I queued. Look, I don't like to pay down for chalky receivers. Robbie Anderson, based on what he's done the past couple of weeks of the season, and we can go to Robbie Anderson. Obviously, everybody saw him on that Saturday Island type game. I know it wasn't the only one, but the Saturday 4 o'clock game, have a good game, right? 11 targets, 7 receptions. Not just catching the deep balls either, catching those middle of the field passes. Almost got in the end zone twice in that game. We see him having 25 over 8 targets per game over the last 3 weeks. Darnold came out and said that when he's struggling, he's looking for Robbie now. Quincy Enunwa's been ruled out. Good situation for Robbie. Look, I don't like to pay down in tournaments for chalky receivers who are going to be 20+% owned, like I faded when there was that huge Cortland Sutton cash or chalk week, and I faded it and it was fine. That huge DJ Moore chalk week, and I faded it and it was fine. I'm fine fading Robbie Anderson this week, right? The only thing that is different for me is Robbie Anderson has the big play upside against a banged-up Packers secondary. Robbie Anderson has 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in his back pocket like any single week. He almost did it last week. He was 1 catch away. And a guy like Adam Humphries, when he's 20% owned in tournaments, he doesn't have that in his pocket, right? He can't do that every week. He might do it 1 week out of 10. Robbie Anderson, or 1 week in his career, Robbie Anderson can do that 1 out of every 5 games if he gets that amount of targets that he's been getting. At 4,500, based on the volume and his big play upside, he's a guy that I'm fine eating the chalk with. Not sure that I will, but he's going to be in my player pool as of now. Godwin, I mentioned at 4,300, his price has come down suppressed. No Deshaun Jackson, most likely still out there. Monitor that. If Godwin's going to be playing, he's probably not going to see Byron Jones with Mike Evans seeing him. Jones has been doing a lot of shadowing of the number 1 receiver. They would definitely consider Mike Evans the number 1 receiver over Godwin. And I think Godwin will get back into the column, right? I think he's going to be doing fine. He laid up a goose egg, I think, like last week, and that's pretty disappointing. Played pretty terribly the week before, 1 catch on 10 targets. But I'm fine going back to him at 4,300 because I do think he has a lot of talent, and I do think this is a spot where a sneaky shootout against Dallas and Tampa Bay for sure. Coming down a little more, there's a couple more plays that I do like down here. John Ross is a guy that I have queued. Probably not going to play him, but again, no Tyler Boyd. He's the only pass-catching guy out there outside of Mixon, maybe Gio Bernard, maybe C.J. Uzomah. But on the outside, John Ross is the only guy out there. He has a lot of speed. I'm not sure if Ward's playing for Cleveland. I know he was ruled out last week. If Ward's not playing, their number 1 cornerback's out as well, the rookie. So he's in a good spot. Across from him, Antonio Callaway had a really quality week last time out, if we put him in, against Cincinnati. And I don't see why that should change at all this time, right? Against Cincinnati, he had a touchdown. He had 16 points at his price at 3,800. Now he's at 3,900. At that price, if you're getting 16 points in tournaments, it might not win you the tournament, but it's definitely going to help you out if you're getting 16 points from a guy under 4K, right? Especially because you're going to get to pay up at other spots. Excuse me. So Callaway I do have queued. Other than that, the only other guy I'm going to put in here is Michael Gallup. So Gallup laid a goose egg last week. Everybody was on him. Nothing has changed about Gallup's situation, other than the fact that he's going to have lower ownership. His price has come down $100. He probably has a better matchup against Tampa Bay. Amari should see a lot of the coverage over top. Obviously, there's going to be eyes on a guy like Zeke. If Dak can just get the ball out, which he couldn't do last week at all, so that's more so on Dak, and he can't hit Gallup, who's been deep like 4 times this year for touchdowns deep. Gallup's been seeing a lot of air yards per target. He's just been getting open and getting separation. Lots of metrics that are jumping off. I'm fine taking a flyer on him in some lineups at this price. In this range, it's just a bunch of bums, really. Cody Core, Curse, Bourne, Kirkwood, Trent, Sherfield might be good, but still a bunch of bums who don't have as big of a role, run as many snaps, as talented probably as Gallup. So I do like Gallup here at 3,500. Lastly, we'll get to tight ends. And again, like always, there's not much that I talk about at tight ends, but I do talk about some of the plays. The one play is Ertz, right? Ertz didn't have a great week last week. And I could kind of see that one coming, right? A lot of teams knowing that literally Ertz is the whole offense. Main game slate. No Carson Wentz, who loves Ertz. Yes, he does have success with Nick Foles, but a lot more with Wentz. But Ertz, nobody's going to be on now since he laid a goose egg. He's cheaper than Kittle. He should be the highest priced guy by a lot on this slate. And again, all tight ends have burned us this year. If you went away from tight ends who burned you, I think they mentioned this on the Fantasy Flex show, the Action Network, then you wouldn't play any tight end, right? So I do like Ertz this week. He's very cheap, and he has a good matchup against Houston. A very good matchup against Houston position-wise. Evan Ingram, another guy that I do like. So Ingram, if OBJ's out, which it seems like OBJ is going to be out, he finally got back to his healthy ways. It seemed like they featured him. He was on the field a lot more. He was only on the field for like 30% of the snaps the other games that he was in the previous month of the season. He got 8 catches on 12 targets. Didn't get in the end zone, but he's been having back-to-back good weeks in terms of yardage. Now he finally got the volume. He's in a good spot. I don't mind playing him at 4,600, although he will be chalky. That is the only thing I will say about Evan Ingram. Probably my favorite play on the slate at tight end is David Njoku, based on price at 3,800, based on matchup against Cincinnati. Obviously, a great matchup. He had over 60 yards and a touchdown last time against them. If we go to David Njoku here, 63 yards, 5 catches, and that crazy touchdown that he had, 17 points. I thought we were going to see a lot more of Njoku this year, maybe a multi-touchdown game. That could be this week. I do like Njoku. I do like his matchup. I do like this Cleveland-Cincinnati game overall. I do like a lot of plays on both sides, as we've seen. Next guy I'll touch on, Austin Hooper. So Hooper just gets a great matchup against Carolina in this spot, right? Worst game of the year last week. He did get hurt. Let's see. He was listed as a Vaughn McClare of ESPN. So as a what? As a nothing. It doesn't say what he was listed as. But Hooper is in a good spot this week. I don't mind paying for him at 3,700 based on the role he has in that offense. Other than that, it's going to be Ian Thomas for me at 3,500 with the backup quarterback in. They like to rely on their running backs plus to McCaffrey and rely on their slot receivers and tight ends plus to Ian Thomas. Ian Thomas has been playing a ton of snaps. They hyped him up earlier in the year when Greg Olsen got hurt. He didn't do too much, but he's been playing a ton of snaps, as you can see here. For a tight end, he has 20 snaps over the last 3 weeks, almost 7 targets. That's almost 7 targets a week. Ian Thomas getting almost 7 targets a week in this offense with a backup QB coming in now. I kind of like that. Like I said, they rely backup QBs on their running backs. They rely on their tight ends, short intermediate passes. If this is a guy who's going to get you 5 catches this week for 50 yards and does have touchdown upside based on being a tight end, boxing people out, I don't mind Ian Thomas in this matchup against Atlanta, who does funnel the ball. Yes, Deion Jones is out, so it's going to help a little bit more in preventing Ian Thomas. But Atlanta funnels the ball to running backs. They funnel the ball to the middle of the field, not the outside. So it's an up for Ian Thomas and up for Christian McCaffrey. I don't mind paying for him at 3,500 at all. And then lastly in my pool is Chris Herndon, the 4th against Green Bay. Again, Green Bay doesn't have a ton of great linebackers, none that can really cover. Herndon seems to catch 3 balls a week, seems to get like a 25-plus catch a week. If he's going to get you 8 points, you could slot that in at tight end at $3,000, $3,100, and feel comfortable. Again, in tournaments, though, if you want to win the tournament, your tight end needs to get you like close to 20 points to separate you. The guy that's going to do that is Zach Ertz. You could argue Ebron can do it. Obviously, we know Kittle can do it. But the guy that's going to do that this week, in my opinion, is Zach Ertz. He's the guy I want to have. Evan Ingram, maybe, but more so Zach Ertz. That's it, guys. That's the breakdown. I know I didn't talk too much about pace this week, and basically that's because a lot of these games don't have that great of pace. I mean, you could say I think that the Colts game has decent pace. They're like the highest paced game of the week, but that's mainly because the Colts are a high-paced team. The Patriots game as well has pretty good pace because they're like, I think, number 2 in pace, whereas Buffalo is like number 17, whereas the Colts are number 1 in pace, I believe, in their matchup against the Giants, who are like they're like 18. So there's not really overall a top 10 matchup in pace, so I didn't want to bring it up. Explosive plays due to the pace, due to some of these great offenses being off the main slate once again, such as the Chiefs. There's not a lot of explosive plays going to be happening in the running back position. There's a decent amount that you could have. The Jets should get good opportunities against the Packers, especially since they have some of their best defensive men out with Mike Daniels and now Kenny Clark. Opens up a lot of running lanes for Elijah McGuire, things like that. But that's the breakdown, guys. You can get access to my full pool, which right now is 36 players. Probably going to chop that down, switch up some players, get it around 30. By the time Sunday comes, do that usually on Saturdays. If you want to get access to that, link right below, 30 days for $1. Check out Draft Dashboard. It has a lot of cool tools. Check out, also follow me on Instagram, guys. I'm going to put the new Instagram link down below. That's my Draftkings or my DFS Instagram type page. Again, it's just some clips that I do of these videos and just shorter form stuff. A lot of people do like it, so I appreciate if you could check that out. Check out the blog as well. Appreciate it, guys. Also, check out the GoFundMe if you want to donate to try and get me to be able to stream to you guys live on Twitch, on YouTube. Check out that as well. Appreciate it. Best of luck, guys. Hit the like button. Comment below. I forgot to mention this earlier. Comment below the wide receiver you think has the most DK points this weekend for a chance to win $15 PayPal. My name's Sal. Best of luck this weekend. Have a blast. Happy holidays if I don't see you before then. Peace.